for those that may not have been able to make it last time, we will do the same format, just kind of quick rundown on the state of things. I got some other kind of developments over the last week, people I met with to talk about, and then I also wanted to go over kind of the to do list that I have rolling because I know a lot of people, uh, are wondering kind of what's the order of operations, what's going to come out, first feature wise, and so I'll talk through a little bit of that. And then I actually have a couple questions for you all, at the sort of at the end of the update section. Um, Pertaining to like referrals and how we're handling that. uh I again want to be sort of sensitive and not make any like insane changes, but also make fun changes that allow people to engage. So yeah, that's a little bit of the rundown, a little bit of the itinerary. um let's see. Like I said, people are still rolling in, but I think yeah, we'll hang tight for, let's see, just another couple minutes. Like I said, for those that just joined, I was reading through. Sunny just did a big, like, looks like a 10th anniversary post for VChain. Uh, doesn't look like it's like tech heavy at all. Just kind of a, hey, here's where we've been, here's where we're going. I'm excited. Um, which is always good, always fun to hear from the man himself. Which also, it's coming later today. So I'll be listening into that space as well. The big V chain one. Um, but yeah, so let me. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me post in all of the channels. Here. Uh, mm, okay. All right. So, yeah, that's a bit of the rundown of the itinerary, for what we're going over, the agenda rather. Yeah, without further ado, kind of as we did last time, a little bit of State of the Union. Unfortunate timing on that one. Let's see. So currently, this is kind of a fun. One of the statistics that I mentioned last week was the sort of growth of unique addresses interacting with Thorhead. That has actually stayed pretty consistent in terms of the day over day growth. So currently, there are 8,223 unique addresses that have uh, interacted with Thorhead in some capacity. So pretty sweet to see that grow. What I say, about like 120, 150, depending on the day. Um, but again, continuing to track growth, and I think referrals, which or giving Thorhead will cause that to grow quite a bit. So yeah, excited to chat about that a little bit later in the hour. Um, a couple of the other things that I think I forgot to pull last week, but I did for this week. The transactions that we've sponsored in the context so far, and this number's partially, I'll say, a little inflated just because of some architecture changes early on, and needing to write some additional data to the blockchain. But so far, we have sponsored 137,517 transactions. So, that's not all of those are the same cost, but yeah, it's a lot of transactions, a lot of data written to the blockchain. Kind of uh, I don't know. Again, kind of fun for me to see. Like, man, we are. I mean, we're burning. It's only been a couple months here now, and that's a lot of transactions. So I think with referrals and with sort of the growth, I think we'll see that number continue to climb. Um, Total minted as of like 5 minutes ago is now up over 87,000. So that's a lot of Thorhead. Shouts out to y'all. Steve, you've been killing it. We got uh, Shane, you're a legend as well. I'm still working on getting the Discord roles set up for all that, but we'll talk about that during the to do list section. Um, yeah, so those are kind of some of the high level metrics. Again, if you have any questions on the details, we can go over that during like Q&A. One of the big, I'll say, meetings that I had this last week was with Reese, the new head of developer relations at VChain, to talk to him both about like developer needs, to talk to him about just kind of the state of the ecosystem. Really what my ethos is behind even just building in general on the blockchain. And yeah, we got to talk a bit about the VChain builders drama as well, which is always a little fun. Uh, got a little spicy in that space for those that were there. So I'll recap that meeting. Honestly, Reese is a great guy, super like attentive. Has built a bunch himself on blockchain. I think he came from Cardano. Was doing a bunch of stuff. Kind of, it sounds like pro bono over there. I mean, not like totally for free, but like building and trying to add to the ecosystem over there. Had a bunch of connections at the VChain Foundation, and so when he was like, "Yeah, I need to kind of settle down and I need a full-time job," they scooped him up for developer relations. So he's like, well acquainted with the space and with development in general and kind of the needs of developers. And so we chatted a bit about that. Um, the ethos that I shared with him, like that uh, I've shared in this context with all y'all. Is both a like, hey, I want to, educate and widen the funnel of like user adoption, but also one of the other things that I don't know that I've mentioned it this frequently in this context is enterprise adoption. That's actually one of the big like lenses that I look at anything that I'm developing in the context of Thorhead, which may seem funny because at the end of the day it's funny pictures, um, you know, of dudes with big noggins, but but I- I'll say like any of the engineering tasks that I take, that I take on are under the lens of like, okay, how would a big, like, well-established enterprise accomplish this? Like, what would be their sort of path of least resistance? Hey, we gotta, sort of get a return on our investment as fast as possible by writing data, by using this distributed database. And so Reese and I talked about that a little bit, talked about, what it means to sort of translate the common Web 2 proficiencies into Web 3, which kind of led us into the conversation around VChain Energy, which if you guys don't follow them, I would highly recommend it. Um, it's led by a guy who goes by Favo. I think his name in real life is Mario. Is an awesome dude, incredibly kind. I've been messaging back and forth with him in the VChain Discord or the VChain Energy Discord for probably 3 years now. I just hammered him with really dumb questions for a long time, and he helped me get up to speed on on what it means to build an application on VChain. So, in the context of talking about VChain Energy, we brought up the VChain builders stuff, and he kind of gave me a behind the scenes look at um, uh, what happened there. So for those that may not know, um, there is a VeChain Builders sort of I don't know what to call it, like Twitter account run by presumably this guy who goes by Eman or Eman. Basically, I kind of called him out because he had tagged like in this post promoting a bunch of the builders in the space and active projects in the space, had tagged a bunch of like dead projects or developers who had kind of very publicly left VeChain and burned some bridges along the way. And so it was like just gave off a lot of red flags of like, okay, this person's trying to scam engineers on VeChain. And so I posted and was like, what the heck? Like this doesn't make any sense. And they gave kind of a weird PR BS answer. So I hit up Reese and was like, hey, what's going on? And he gave the insight that they were or the this E-Man guy works for a agency that someone at the foundation had contracted with to sort of get all of the developers on VeChain under one roof. And they started that contract with that agency before Reese came onto the team. And so, which to me, I was like, hey, that's like, I'm not opposed to that. That's great. It's awesome to see the VeChain Foundation investing in furthering development, investing in like sort of knowledge sharing across the ecosystem. Super happy to hear that. Why didn't they just lead with that? And that was the piece that was just super strange. And thankfully, Reese was like, oh, yeah, I absolutely roasted them on the back end just because they were not forthcoming. They were not honest. And even Reese appreciated sort of the VeChain community's ability to sniff that out so fast and uh, really call a what looked like a scammer, just because they were being so underhanded with their communication. And so, anyway, long story short is he kind of read them their rights. He, I think, got them in line. So it seems like the VeChain Builders account, will be sort of cross promoting some of the like development curriculum and efforts that anyone in the space is putting out, which is great. But I'll say from a having been, working on VeChain for some time now, I'm just continuing to steer people towards VeChain Energy because Favo is a legend. I mean, he's the guy behind VDelegate. I mean, I'm pretty sure he works at the foundation, or if not, basically shares an office or something because he's built a bunch of the amazing technologies that uh, allow for the sort of enterprise adoption that I was talking about earlier. And so yeah, I would encourage anyone follow VeChain Energy. They're amazing, and put out really really awesome products and features that will be the backbone of future development. So um, yeah. Anyway, we talked about that with Reese. Talked about yeah, really just we had a half hour booked and we chatted for a whole hour, and it was awesome. I'm really really excited to see how he sort of steers the development community around VeChain. But yeah, so that being said, that's kind of the big, I'll say, hallmark thing that happened this last week. Yeah, I want to go over the next thing I want to go over is kind of the to-do list, the current list of priorities for development uh, with Thorhead and what's coming next. Uh, let's see, I have it looks like 6 items on my on my to-do list right now, although they encompass a large number of things. First one on the list is referrals. We can talk about that more in depth later on this call, but yeah, referrals are the next thing out the door. That's that's the give Thorhead get Thorhead thing. I'm still ironing out all the details of not the like, okay, everything above 3 rarity will get you referrals, like referral points, basically new mints. Um, but there are some, like, the process of what sharing that. It's like, okay, you will have to, for example, sign a transaction on a contract where the contract basically takes over the transferring of that NFT, just so that it's observable. Because we can, it's like I could observe the transfer event, but then you run into issues of tracking and stuff like that, and I'm going to write some data to the blockchain in the process, basically while that transaction is happening. So yeah, some those are the technical details that I'll need to iron out. Next up on the to-do list is a like metrics page slash Discord bot integration. So that's, you know, I want to be able to have a leaderboard, of who has minted the most, who has, what are some of the current stats, so that we don't have to wait until a Thorhead Thursday to sort of report on those things, and anyone can go check it out at any time. Um, so some details that I need to figure out to get all that data aggregated. That'll be, um, yeah, a bit of data shuffling on my end. And then after that, after the Discord integration is landed, metrics page settles down, then it'll be staking. I think I mentioned this last week, but I have the ABI from the World of V team, so that I can get started building a contract that will properly interface with their staking system. So this is just one of the funny things about Thorhead being so novel in its implementation of rarity and unlimited minting, and me, writing a very custom contract to accomplish all those things, is it doesn't fit perfectly in the mold of a number of the other sort of existing tools. So, for example, the World of E team, when I initially was like, "Hey, I really want to get staking out the door. Like, what does it take?" They're like, "Well, just describe or tell us which IDs are able to be staked, and yeah, we'll add that list." And I was like, "Well, that list could change literally at any moment, and actively does. How do we do that?" And so after a bunch of back and forth, and they're in Italy, and so it's a different time zone, and communication takes a little while. Really, we landed on them just sending me the ABI. I'll spin up my own contract that they can then call and actively get, which NFTs are stakeable on their end. And so you'll be able to do it all in the context of World of V. It will just be calling the contract that I build in order to determine whether or not something is stakeable in the context of their ecosystem. So um, yeah, that's number 3 on the list. So it's referrals number 1, metrics page and Discord number 2, and then staking number 3. After that, it gets a little like stuff could be rearranged. I really want to push for collaborations. Again, I'll charge you all with hey, if you reach out to any V Better DAO teams that want to have their transaction fees covered, especially for those that own a Thorhead, I would love to do that. Uh, there's, I think, big opportunity there, and potentially an opportunity to distribute better tokens to those that hold Thorhead, and fund, or kind of lower the barrier to entry for people interacting with Be Better DAO. So um, that conversation, is ongoing. I have a few kind of lines in the water, so to speak, but no bites yet. So we'll keep that one going on the back burner. Uh, Number 5 on the list is multi mint, which I know is a a highly a highly requested feature. I'm thinking like either 5 or 10x mints for those that want to really roll the dice at a blistering pace. Um, yeah, want to make sure that that is not not forgotten, and it is very technically feasible. Just it is on the roadmap. Um, and then number 6 is kind of a catch-all, but it's further like UX refinement and then broader educational content. There's a lot of things where if you're far away from a server, image might not load really quickly. Uh, just kind of optimizations that can be done with stuff like that, as well as, and I think the thing that will take higher priority is the educational content. Uh, wanting to give people a sort of guided path of, hey, here's what happens under the hood when you click on Mint to Thorhead. Like, here's the transaction that's happening. Here's the even the code that is run in the context of the contract, because ultimately that's all available on the blockchain. And so it's like if you knew where to look, you could go find it. So you have to treat it as public, and I'd rather just kind of share all of those details with those that may be interacting with this space for the first time. So um, yeah, so that's the to-do list. I think that sort of kind of concludes the little updates section. Yeah, so let's do Q&A. But I think we'll do Q&A and talk about referrals. I'll say we'll keep it focused towards the give Thorhead, get Thorhead. I've written a few questions just for myself, um, that we can go over. Uh, but then we can open the floor after that. Um, so my like working idea for referrals has, or I'll call it referrals, just so I don't have to say so many syllables. But the working concept for referrals is if you have a Thorhead that is of 3 rarity or higher, you can send someone that Thorhead via this contract, and it will mint you another Thorhead proportionate to the rarity. So, what does that mean? If you send somebody a Thorhead with 3 rarity, you will get 1 new mint. If you send somebody a Thorhead of 4 rarity, you will get 2 new mints, and 5 and 3 new mints, and so forth and so on. It's basically the rarity minus the rarity of the Thorhead minus the minimum allowable rarity, and you get that many mints. So yes, if you sent somebody a holographic, you would get whatever that is, 97, 98 mints. So it's like there's opportunities to play the odds there, to also stress test some of the infrastructure that I have in place, which will be exciting times for us all. So far, we've been, I'll say, relatively stable, which is nice. Um, but yeah, so work in that direction. Um, the the decisions that still need to be made on that are, is there an acceptance like process where it's like, hey, it's not only like, hey, you need to send this, but then the person receiving it needs to like sign a transaction to receive it, and that idea isn't fully fleshed out. Really, I just want to make a way for there to be, honestly, an additional incentive for people not gaming the system. It's like I prefer to use the carrot, not the stick, where it's like, yeah, if you want to send all of your high ranking Thorhead to, uh, you know, 100 different wallets that you create and own, it's like, I'm not going to try and police that. It's all fun NFTs anyway. I think the thing that I would prefer to like incentivize is, and this is something that honestly I had the kind of, I don't know what you call it, like a moment of enlightenment last night, where engaging on social media saying, hey, I just onboarded my friend. Here's like a picture of my friend and I's foreheads. And here's our wallet addresses. Maybe we like double the amount of mints and distribute them evenly between the two, basically the sender and the recipient. So, uh, working that direction, it's like, yeah, I would rather incentivize people kind of doing things with the intent in mind, and not sort of try and make it prohibitively difficult to participate. So, yeah, Alex, you have your hand raised. Let's chat.
Hey, Kyle, just a quick thought to,
Yeah.
maybe prevent people from gaming the system and just sending to various different wallets that they may own or whatever. But you could potentially consider implementing a check, kind of like how Stepper Team has done with a verified domain. I mean, sure, I guess you could technically just make multiple verified domains, but it's going to cost you money to do it. So, it
Hmm.
does kind of it's kind of like a additional means to potentially, thwart that kind of activity. Uh,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and that that is the honestly that what you're describing is the thing that I have been, I'll say, weighing, for or against. I'll obviously the argument for is what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, then with somebody having their identity verified, then they're a real person, it's a different person, and you can sort of green light, whatever sort of referring that is happening there. I'll say, uh, thinking about the sort of core demographic of people that I would like to onboard. Um, I think something like that, scanning a ID or submitting documents like that would be a non-starter. Like the friends of mine who are not in the crypto space but would do something if I was like, hey, check out this thing, it's just a fun picture, like download this app, I'll send it to you. That they would do, that that is attainable. However, saying, hey, download this app, then scan your ID, then take a selfie, then like all of that to me adds up to like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know, at least, just putting myself in their shoes. So, you know, while because I know the ecosystem and I'm in it, it's like, yeah, totally, I'm going to verify my thing. But yeah, that's the sort of tension that I'm trying to like hold, and why I would rather incentivize like, hey, just post on social media. Here's a real person that I am sharing, this thing with. And I don't know, have that be sort of the incentive to like, yeah, we'll actually double your rewards going that way. So um yeah. Yeah, that's I hope that makes sense in terms of the intent behind it. Um yeah. Oh, a couple of the other questions that I have for myself, just in the context of framework for referrals, is the sort of rules around it will be, like I said, the forever every point of rarity above two, you will receive that many new Thorhead when you send it. A Thorhead can only be given once, so you can't just like spam, a bunch of NFTs back and forth and generate stuff. It's designed to sort of spread organically. Um, the recipient of a Thorhead can only receive that referral once. So basically, if you send it to your friend, I don't know, Sarah, once you send it, you sort of that address that she controls is no longer able to be referred. And so there's like a sort of one-time use, both on the part of the NFT itself and the part of the recipient of that. So trying to again, yeah, yeah, go for it, Steve.
Sure, sure. So initially, when you were going over this, you mentioned something about the wallet would have never needed to hold a Thorhead at any point in time. Are you going back off of that onto they've never received a Thorhead from someone?
Yeah, yeah. I thought about that this last week, and it's like I, I think there. I think it is one of those things that's like it's it's too convoluted for what it's worth to
Right,
check if they've ever owned one. It's like
right.
you're having to re-index such a massive chunk of the blockchain.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, and so that's where it's like, well, if however many, whatever, a few thousand of us get to refer each other initially, it's like I'm okay with that. Like
Yeah.
I'm looking at, or I'm hoping for scale that is larger than, just that. So
Mhm.
that's the yeah, why I have sort of backed off from checking those types of things and more just like, hey, we'll just create an additive record when somebody sends one that they can no longer then receive one from anyone else. So
So using
that's the
Sarah as a example,
yeah,
let's
totally.
say you send Sarah a hollow,
Hmm.
you
Yep.
get your 98 mints. She
Hmm.
then falls in love with it, and say she sells that hollow and gets a bunch of it and starts
Hmm.
minting her own. She can then send one that she's minted to someone else, or send one back to that original person, as long as that one has never been sent. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So, yes, you got it exactly. And
Okay.
the other sort of aspect to that I actually the question that I wanted to ask you all is in I'm planning on updating the metadata for a Thorhead to reflect whether or not it's been used. So like whether or not it's been given. Um, But my question is, should that impact the image? So like, and I'm not saying like, you put a big red X on the center of it, but like, hey, if there was like a little, I don't know, like black tick mark in the upper right corner so that you could visually scan through, something like World of V or something like your own wallet and see, hey, like these ones have sort of had their ticket punched.
Dude,
um,
if that's possible, I think that's a huge win. If you can update the actual picture on chain,
oh yeah,
there is a lot of potential. Uh, I'm just trying to think. Just take pudgy penguins for example, where
yeah,
you know immediately if they've claimed their pingu or not. Things like that. I think that's a
gotcha.
huge win if you're able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that is absolutely doable. Um, that's again like part of part of what makes Thorhead unique is how I'm doing it, how I'm rendering all these things that gives me that level of control. And ultimately, with the architecture that I've set out, we would still have that, even if every aspect of the data of the like image data was written to the blockchain. So yeah, yeah, that's the rough idea. It's good to hear that you think you're a fan of that. I am open to other opinions too, just because it's like I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to put a big red like X in the center of the screen or whatever that makes it like, oh well, that's dumb and ruins the image. But to have like a little tick mark in the top right hand corner, so that you could like still even use it as your profile picture, even if it
Right.
was just sent to you.
Is is there a way to
Yeah.
do something with not necessarily a tick mark, but I'm thinking something that goes along with the current art. Uh, I don't want to say change a shade or a hue or
Yeah.
something like that, but
Hmm.
uh, is there any way to
Yeah.
do a transparency over it, or have something kind of like a watermark, more or less? that doesn't
Yeah,
cover the whole thing, but it kind of it's just applied to the background, so it doesn't take over the head, but
or
maybe
even
you
just
yep,
a
see it in the
border.
background. Yeah, a
yeah,
border. That'd be awesome.
okay,
Like a
yeah. No, that's a
glow.
great
The
idea.
ones that are unclaimed, they have like a glowing, just a little bit of a vignette around the outside, and the ones that have been claimed are just more dull. Kind of what they are
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I mean, honestly, again, the cool thing is all of those are great options. Let me write those things down, because I want to play around in the SVG generator and see kind of what looks good in that context. So let's see, we have like border, tick mark, glow. I think from a like, uh, let's see, like transparency standpoint, I'm not necessarily like entirely maybe I'm not understanding. You're saying like truly like a watermark, like there's a transparent something on not on top of it, but just like somewhere in the image.
Yeah, well, the first thought, and I've immediately already changed to a different
No, it's all
idea,
right.
but if the background itself is its own layer, is there a
Hmm.
way to add a layer on top of that behind the head so that it's
Oh yeah.
what I was thinking is the outline of the Thor head, if you took away the background entirely and the
Hmm.
outline of the Thor head, wherever those lines occur, if there was more of a glow, not the holographic effect on the outline
Yeah.
itself, but a
Hmm.
glow, a gradient glow that kind of what, like a 25 or 50% opacity,
Yeah.
um to where it immediately stands out. You wouldn't have to look at the borders. It would be the Thor head
Hmm.
itself would have like a slight glow from behind it.
Hmm. Yeah. I'll have to play around with that. Hmm. If you've, I mean, I know you've picked apart the SVG, so you know a little bit. But if you, for those that may have not, it's like the outline is drawn on its own layer and is not solid in the middle. And so I'd have to play around with like what a true outer glow would look like without making weird colors on like the hair, hat, or skin tone. But I think it's doable. You know what I mean? I think it's like that having some signifying aspect that gives it that like quick recognition of like, oh yeah, this one has been used in a referral, still looks cool, but uh we know we can easily differentiate which ones have been used and which one hasn't. Yeah, I think there's something to iron out there, and uh I'll definitely I'll play around with some things and honestly probably post them in the Discord, and we can all weigh in on them there, and figure out okay what looks best, what uh, yeah is most on brand, and that good fun stuff. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the channel, the Thorhead Thursday channel. A little off topic, but the gold skin update, yeah, that I should have put that at the like top of my list. That is happening soon, very soon. um, I literally just have to iron out. So the funny thing is again, if you want to pick apart the SVG, you're more than welcome to. The ear skin tone is on its own layer of sorts. It's its own path, and so there's some like restructuring that I have to do on uh, layer masking in SVG, which is a funny thing that I never thought I'd say I was doing as a web developer. But yeah, just like I got to restructure how the ears are rendered.
Is
So yeah,
there
it's
is
yeah.
there a need for and I don't want to overstep here.
No, 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 go for it.
Is there an option where you get rid of the ears for simplicity so it's just head?
Well, I mean, that is always possible. Uh, the rub is that would require redrawing every outline for every variant. So like the
Gotcha.
outline is a baked in path
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'll look into. I mean, I'll look into what it takes to like remove the ears. I think it's a moderately defining feature, but is not the meat and potatoes. But like I said, I can post some sort of noodling on that in the in the Discord, and we can weigh in there. So yeah, if you're not in the Thorhead Discord, uh, where did I put the link for that? I'll post a link to it, and yeah, we can chop it up there.
I
Yeah,
like
so
the
really that
ears.
was yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, no,
I
no,
don't.
go
I
for
don't
it.
want to get rid of them.
Yeah, no, I like I said, we can play around. Everything is adjustable. It's just kind of uh, what have we done so far, and what will it look like changing things. Because that would be a pretty distinct change. In terms of re-indexing, you would see a lot of like stuff on World of V that would look funny for a long time. Um, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, great question. Thank you for the question, Shane. Really appreciate it. Yeah, the gold stuff is coming soon. Just have to, like I said, get all. It's literally like there are a handful of outlines that have ears that need rendered slightly differently. So yeah, just a funny, like I said, a funny sentence in isolation. But yeah, we'll get it done. Um, yeah, that's I think kind of the long and short of it. Just kind of high level referral rules overview again for those that may have joined late. Every point of rarity above 2, so that's 3 and above, that you give, you will receive that many new Thorhead. When you refer, a Thorhead can only be given once, and a recipient can only receive once. And then yeah, the bonus rule, kind of like I said, the carrot in the carrot versus the stick, is um, posting on social media as like, hey, I just onboarded my buddy, here's their address, here's my address, or whatever. I'll figure out the details. But yeah, that will double the number of mints. Not immediately, because I'll have to like semi-manually process those posts. Uh, but yeah, really, again, just wanting to incentivize real people onboarding other real people and engaging with the blockchain. So that'll be that's next up aside from the gold outline. So yeah, it's funny, Shane, the ear misprint is fixed in the context of redoing the gold thing. So yeah, you highlighted the issue enough that yeah, I had to go in and fix it. So um yeah, I think that's a bit of like what I have planned. I'm happy to chat kind of future stuff, or if you guys have any other questions, or um, I see a few people joined late. You're welcome to, this is, I think I set it up to be recorded. I've also been pulling down the like raw whatever MP3 from each one of these Thorhead Thursdays, and I'll probably upload them to YouTube or something at some point in case anyone wants to go back and listen. I've found spaces kind of difficult to navigate when I want to go like listen to something on 2x speed, so that's always a fun thing. So um yeah, any questions, anyone? I know there are a few like listeners, or if you have questions that you may not want to say, you can type them out in the Thorhead Thursday channel, um or I think request to be a speaker. I don't know, this is only number 2 Twitter Spaces for me, so I'm still feeling like a scrub out here. But I guess, yeah, talking about like we can do maybe a little future talks here to wrap things up. I mentioned collaborations. I really want to get that going. I actually about 2 years ago wrote and recorded a like VChain 101 like audio or like wrote and recorded a script that I want to put to like a little animated video with my Thorhead jumping around um of uh like, hey, here's VChain 101 from like a non-blockchain perspective. Um, Kind of comparing like, oh, a wallet is like a bank account, and kind of giving people uh, a a sort of cognitive framework to wrap their head around. Like, what the heck does an address mean? What is what is your secret key? What is it, like secret phrase? How are those related? Or your private key and secret phrase? Sorry, what do I need to know in order to like safely and securely engage with this thing? And taking it from a very like non-technical perspective, that's something that I'm looking forward to, again, when I have some time, getting that video ironed out. Um, but that'll, like I said, that's number 6 on the to-do list, is refinement and further educational content. So that'll be a little ways out, but I have it entirely recorded. Just I'm not a video editor, so that is not an area that I am proficient in. So it'll probably take some time once I get to it. But yeah, I think if we're feeling good about that. If anyone has any other questions about, I don't know, technical, non-technical, um, I've steered a couple people towards the VChain Energy Discord. I know I mentioned that earlier, but um, I think it was, who was it? Somebody messaged me, Virtual Flame, about developing a thing. I don't know if you guys have interacted with him at all, but he and I have been chatting about a Be Better DAO app that he wants to build, as well as who was the other one? Poker Dutchy, um, chatting about sort of building a like indexing analytics stuff, which I mean, honestly, good on them. I have been trying to help out as best I can. It just does require programming. Like, that's the funny thing is, I think there's a lot of people who have either reached out to me or talked to me and been like, hey, I have this thing, but like I don't know how to program. How do I get it off the ground? And it's like, well, it's going to take a little bit of learning. It's like I am fully confident that anyone can do it. It just takes some time. It takes uh you're going to have to learn a non-zero amount of JavaScript. Like, AI tools are great. I use them all the time, but they're not, if you can't properly conceptualize and even validate the code that it's spitting out, I still think we're at a spot where it's hard to uh, take something, from idea to fully fleshed out, fully like maintainable application with just AI tools. Not impossible. I think with enough time beating your head against the keyboard, you could probably get there. But I still think that, honestly, the amount of time spent, rolling your face around on the keyboard would probably be the equivalent to just learning how to program. So, um, yeah, I think it's something worth doing. Something that, as I've stated, I'm passionate about sharing and helping people learn. So, if anyone wants to exchange contract code in Solidity or whatnot, like, I'm happy to do that on GitHub or wherever. So
Kyle, I would like to ask you about the uh your thoughts on the upcoming changes, the Renaissance.
Oh
Will
yeah,
any of this affect or benefit this project or lead to new functionality in any way that any I guess I'm asking your
yeah,
wish list, like
yeah.
months or years from now. Is there anything that sparked your creativity based on their announcement?
I think uh, really as I mentioned this last week, but like the JSON RPC integration will be so nice for the stability of DApps. Like so many libraries in so many languages are designed to interface over that JSON RPC connection. Uh, and so we'll give developers a very like out of the box toolkit to interface with these things and in a language that they're familiar with. Like, for example, the back end of Thorhead is built in Elixir using the Phoenix framework, and there is a Elixir library called Elixir. What is it? Elixir Ethers. It's basically, you know, hey, you can interact with any Ethereum or EVM compatible chain. It's a drop-in tool for VeChain, and so I use it to do all of the like VeChain name service querying, and it's awesome. But that's only because Favo stood up a read-only JSON RPC endpoint that pseudo wraps the HTTP endpoints. So it's like kind of faking it currently, whereas having that sort of fully adopted and fully maintainable, like able to be interfaced with, will be honestly just jet fuel in the engine of development. Uh, I won't have to worry about transactions failing or like webhooks failing to connect from the network standpoint. It's like, oh yeah, I can just monitor the JSON RPC request and retry if it fails, and that can happen in a matter of seconds versus a matter of minutes, or depending on the timeout. Uh, and and how long it takes me to to open the logs and see that something's broken. Um, so from a long term standpoint, I think it is just the tokenomics of it that really gets me the most like excited in terms of uh, fostering engagement. And I think the staking, like the NFT staking details, will be the one that to me is like make or break in terms of uh, incentivizing engagement, like active engagement in the community, and not just like the centralized exchange like Coinbase or Binance has, you know, a billion vet, therefore they have 10 billion Thor. It's like that's lame. And having the staking be in place will really really benefit the Thor as a medium of exchange across the ecosystem. And that's where, like, honestly, I could see the sort of value of Thorhead go up just from a purely like, hey, if Thor goes up, like suddenly it's not 20 cents to mint, it's now like $1 to mint. And that again is I think at a certain point it's like, yeah, maybe there's levers that I could pull to like try and make that accessible, but I don't know. I'd rather just keep it the same and keep it like as a, not like a store of value, but just as a, hey, here's what we've done. It's been 100 Thor since the early days, but now that Thor's in demand, it's like, well, that number's gone up. But I also hope that the generation rate will offset that for especially those with X node holders, that there will be, sort of a abundance for those that are actively engaged and actively involved in securing the network. Um, so yeah, that's long answer, but I think it is just the tech stuff. That's as short as I can put it. Just the like, hey, we can integrate, we can build faster, better. Talking to Reese about his like kind of goals around building a really slick command line interface for interacting with VChain. Um, Also opens up opportunities to build different units of functionality that can be easily transported and plugged into that command line interface, or transported to a different language or server or whatever. There's like having small units of functionality that are easily composable seems like, based on what he was communicating, the direction that we're headed, and that is an immensely valuable concept, just from a architecture standpoint. And so again, that's back into the nerdy tech stuff, but that is what I'm most excited for, because it gives way to, hey, we have an engineering team that we can just drop on a project and all the tools are there. They can go nuts. And, that person being an enterprise, that doesn't have to spend months to like get up to speed on a different way of thinking, that can just say, okay, cool, I grabbed these off the shelf libraries and now we're writing data. Um, I've seen that, like a little bit of my background, as we wrap up here. A bit of my background is in programming Ruby on Rails. Like I spent most of my engineering career writing that, and part of the reason it's been so successful, because it's not a performant language. It's not a like not very efficient. Um, has been the community around it, building these off the shelf tools that get you from uh, I mean, I think the saying is like from zero to startup in like 15 minutes, where they're off the shelf tools that get you to a place where you're focused on business logic and not reinventing the wheel. And I think that's the piece that is my hope, and like what I'm working towards in the context of contributing to the VChain ecosystem, to build tools that allow people to not have to necessarily worry about, oh man, there's this massive coding hurdle that I have to get over, but that there's a tool that will give me, kind of whatever unit of functionality, and then it's like it's my ability to be creative, to combine those sort of Lego pieces into a thing that meets the needs of my users. And at that point, you're just running a startup business that happens to do software and happens to run on the blockchain, as opposed to being like, we are a fintech you know company that minted a coin. And I don't know, to me that's like, maybe that's just my own opinion, but it's like, I hope that's where the ecosystem isn't. I hope we're not going that way. I hope we're going to a place where it's like, yeah, we have the tools that any enterprise can just drop in and say, yep, like we picked these three things off the shelf, they meet our needs, now let's go write some data. Because I've seen that in my own like consulting, uh, with Fortune 500 companies. I've seen that in my own work, like my current day job, where it's like, yeah, we take off the shelf tools even at a higher cost because they save us on development time. And so that's where I, at least personally, approach those, building those solutions and trying to make it as accessible as possible. So yeah, that's it. Those were a lot of words. Yeah, again, I know everyone's busy. Try and keep it at an hour. I think if you have any other questions, feel free to tweet them out or post them in the Discord. Yeah, I'm always here to help people learn, to help people understand what's going on. if you have any questions about the tech underpinnings, even like Elixir Phoenix, I'm a big fan of the Elixir programming language, so I'm always down to to talk nerdy about that. But yeah, I think that'll wrap us up for this Thorhead Thursday. Thanks to all who joined. Thanks for asking questions.
Just a reminder, the Sony is going to be talking in about an hour on the
Oh
VChain
yeah,
Spaces.
yep, yeah. I will be there. I hope to see all you there. All righty. Have a good rest of your day, guys. We'll see you around.